Okay, y'all, I am so excited for our last fall library webinar series. I know that we've had a great semester and a great turnout, so I'm excited for y'all to still be here for Exploring Careers in Health Sciences Librarianship. I'm going to let Tiffany and Jess take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Brooke. We really appreciate the invite and the opportunity to be here this evening. So with that said, good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for being with us at the close of your day. My name is Tiffney Gipson-Goodwin, and I'm the library director for the Medical Center Library here at the University of Kentucky. I'm just a few months into this position, but I'm no stranger to the University of Kentucky. I actually graduated from this program in 2017. Um, so I won't go into a lot of detail about my career path now. We'll touch more on that a little bit later. But I will say that before my transition to UK, I actually had the privilege of working with my dear colleague and co-presenter this evening, Jessica Petrey, who I call Jess. So you may hear me say Jess a lot during the presentation. We worked together at the University of Louisville Kornhauser Health Sciences Library. Jess, I don't know if are you sharing slides?
I am now. Tiffany has muted herself, or
Yes.
I'm unmuted and it muted Tiffany. I don't know what happened.
Tiffany, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
There you
The
go.
joys of technology, right? So Jess and I worked together for several years at Kornhauser. Most of the time, we operated as associate directors for the library. Jess now serves as the associate director and head of clinical services for Kornhauser Library. She also manages the Roundtree Medical Library, which is one of the last few remaining physical hospital library spaces in Louisville. So this evening, Jess and I will just spend maybe the next half hour or so exploring careers in health science libraries with you. Depending on how fast or slow we talk, that may go a little quicker than 30 minutes. But just a couple of notes. We'll be saving questions for the end, but we do have someone who's monitoring the chat for us. So feel free to drop your questions there as we go along, and we'll be sure to address those during the Q&A session at the end of our presentation. So in today's session, we're going to focus on several areas. We'll start with an overview of health sciences libraries. Then we'll share more specifics about our libraries. We'll cover the similarities of health science libraries to other libraries, and then also examine the differences. We'll talk about career paths to health science librarianship, the rewarding aspects of our job, and then we'll share some exciting employment opportunities with you, and then we'll close out with some questions at the end. So let's start with an overview of health science librarianship. So what is health sciences librarianship? To understand what it means to be a librarian in this field, it might be helpful to have a better idea of what health sciences means. So think of health sciences as a vast umbrella covering multiple healthcare fields, including medicine and nursing, pharmacy and dentistry, public health and optometry, and then many other healthcare disciplines. Our libraries, health science libraries, exist wherever healthcare information is needed. So that may be in the areas like academic medical centers, like U of L or UK, hospitals and clinics like U of L Healthcare or UK Healthcare, research institutions, or even public health organizations. What do health sciences librarians do? So our core mission is to support healthcare through information. So we do things like help doctors find the latest treatment guides. We support researchers who are conducting systematic reviews. We guide students in learning critical searching skills. And then we also assist patrons who are seeking reliable health information. So let's talk a little bit more about our library. So now that we have a better understanding of health science librarianship, let's talk about our respective libraries. So the University of Kentucky Medical Center Library, it's a lot to say, we call it the MCL, is located in the University of Kentucky campus in the Willard Medical Education Building near UK Hospital. The MCL is made up of about 14 faculty and staff members combined, and we support students, faculty, researchers in the colleges of medicine, nursing, dentistry, health sciences, and public health. We also provide support to physicians, nurses, residents, fellows, and researchers within UK healthcare and affiliated hospitals. So some of our services include assistance with literature searching, teaching support, systematic review assistance, and article retrieval. We also provide curriculum support for various colleges that we interact with via our MCL liaison team. Over the years, our library has become less of a space that houses a physical collection and more focused on providing adequate study space and technology resources for patrons. You can see some examples of our study spaces in the pictures in the slide. And now I'll turn it over to Jess to talk more about Kornhauser Library.
Thanks, Tiffney.
Welcome.
So Kornhauser is also a academic health sciences campus. We're at the University of Louisville. We serve 4 professional schools. We have dentistry, public health, nursing, and medicine. And then we also take care of the practicing clinicians and trainees through the clerkships and residency and fellowship programs that have teaching agreements with our local hospitals. And we are open to community patrons, unaffiliated researchers. So we get some traffic from law offices and that kind of thing coming through too. Where it gets weird for us is, unlike UK, University of Louisville and U of L Health are 2 entirely separate organizations. They're separate businesses entirely. And Kornhauser, the library where I work, has a contract to provide library services to the employees of the health system and patients and their families and all their visitors who are not affiliated with the university itself. They can still get access to our services and resources through the Roundtree Medical Library. And that is a much smaller satellite library that's located in the U of L Health Hospital downtown. It's just right across the street, but a separate space. And then back to Tiffney.
Thanks, Jess. So what similarities exist between health sciences libraries and other libraries? Let's go to the next slide, resources and services. So let's explore some of these resources and services and see what's offered. So first we have space, which is a big one. Health sciences libraries offer both quiet study areas and collaborative spaces for team-based learning that's essential for healthcare students working on group projects. Many spaces actually feature specialized areas like simulation rooms or clinical information commons. Modern designs often include flexible furniture arrangements to accommodate both individual research and group study sessions, and some spaces may even be designated for specific use like systematic review work or telemedicine consultations. And finally, 24/7 access is very common in some spaces. I know that's something we have in the MCL. I know it's something we had once before at Kornhauser Library, but 24/7 badge access is very helpful when it comes to accommodating the various needs and schedules of our healthcare professionals. Talk a little bit about collections. Of course, all libraries have collections, but in the health sciences, collections are a little bit different. They generally are highly specialized, focusing on health sciences disciplines. There's often a mix of print and digital resources. I know that's kind of changing for us at the MCL. We have a very small print collection, a very large digital collection. I know at Kornhauser, they have somewhat of a nice print collection, but truly a more robust electronic collection. So there's a growing emphasis on electronic resource access because it's just so much easier for many of the patrons we serve. As you heard, just talked about affiliate hospitals. UK also serves affiliate hospitals. It's much easier for them to get access electronically than it is for them to physically check out an item. So the collection may also include anatomical models, medical devices, and then other learning tools, special collections that might also feature historic medical instruments or even rare medical texts. Some libraries also offer a consumer health information section for patient information. But overall, there is a strong emphasis on evidence-based practice resources and clinical decision-making support tools. As it relates to equipment, some health sciences libraries may have advanced database access terminals, clinical point of care tools and mobile devices, anatomical visualization software and 3D printing capabilities, video conferencing equipment for telemedicine and remote consultations, specialized software for systematic reviews and data analysis, and then also electronic health record training stations. When we look at talking about programming within health sciences libraries, that may include database search training sessions, evidence-based practice workshops, research methodology courses, citation management workshops, systematic review support, patient health literacy programs, research data management training sessions, clinical information resource updates, and then also consumer health information training sessions as well. Health sciences libraries may also offer displays and exhibits. I know there's a picture of one there at the bottom right. It looks like an art display. That was something started at Kornhauser Library a year or two ago called The Heart of Medicine, which takes the artwork from the students on the health science campus and showcases it in the library. So some of the displays that you might see in the health science library might include medical history exhibits, health awareness campaigns, new medical research highlights, faculty and student research showcases, medical art, just like the ones we have in that picture below, public health information, and then also current awareness displays that feature latest medical developments, and then also interactive health education exhibits. So while these elements might mirror traditional libraries, they're specifically tailored to support healthcare education, research, got ahead of me, and clinical practice. The focus is on providing current evidence-based resources and services that directly support patient care and medical education. And now we can go to the next slide. Roles and responsibilities. So just as similarities exist with regard to resources and services, they also exist with our roles and responsibilities across libraries, regardless of the specialty. So for example, we have individuals who may work in circulation services, interlibrary loan, reference and instruction, technical services, archive, special collections, technology, and administration, just like within any other library, but their roles might be different. So for someone who's in circulation services, their job may be to process loans of specialized items like anatomical models, medical devices, and clinical texts alongside traditional materials. They may also manage course reserves for medical curriculum materials and high demand clinical resources, or handle specialized equipment for checkout, like tablets that are loaded with medical apps or different diagnostic training tools. Those who are in interlibrary loan, excuse me, I got a little tongue-tied there. Those who are in the interlibrary loan department may also coordinate urgent document delivery for patient care and for time-sensitive research needs. They may also navigate licensing and copyright for medical journals and for clinical resources, or partner with medical library networks like the National Network Library. Say it for me, Jess.
It's now the network of the National Library of Medicine. It used to be the National Network of Libraries of Medicine.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll partner with them for specialized resource sharing. So that's something like DocLine, where you would have reciprocal organizations that would share resources with one another. So it would share with those who are part of that specific region. So then also those who are in reference and instruction, they may be able to teach advanced database searching and medical resources, like teaching our patrons how to use PubMed, CINAHL, or then other clinical tools. They might provide expert searching for systematic reviews and evidence synthesis. They may also support point of care information needs for our healthcare providers. And then technical services, kind of similar to regular libraries, whether we cataloging and maintaining specialized resources. They may also manage electronic resource licenses for clinical and research databases, and then also process and maintain point of care tools for evidence-based resources. And then we have also within health sciences, archives and special collections, and they're responsible for preserving historical medical records, instruments, and then other institutional history. They may also manage regulatory compliance for medical records retention. And then they also might curate some of those digital displays of collections that we might see in our libraries. Just a few more. So technology, if you're in the technology department of health sciences, you might support clinical information systems and point of care tools, help maintain specialized medical software and research tools, and then also assist with integration of library resources into electronic health records. And then at the administration level, at that level, you would ensure compliance with medical information privacy laws and regulations. You would also manage specialized accreditation requirements for medical libraries, and then coordinate with healthcare administration and clinical departments to help bring services to the libraries that meet the patron needs. And then finally, public services, which I think is the backbone of all libraries, regardless of type. But in health science libraries, those who work in public services will provide consumer health information services to patients and families. They will also support clinical outreach and community health initiatives and manage patient education resources and health literacy programs. They're also like the front face that our public sees when they come into the library. So these roles, they maintain the core principles of librarianship while adapting to the specialized needs of healthcare education, research, and clinical practice. Now I'll turn it over to Jess to talk more about our challenges.
So This is still within the realm of similarities. I think the challenges we face are pretty universal. It's the specific flavor of those challenges that has some variety. Funding budgets are always a universal concern. We've got demand for really high quality resources, and being able to provide those or advocate for additional funding is a challenge that most of us face. We always have the challenge of demonstrating our own value to stakeholders, administration, people that do have control of budgets, and advocating for our role in education and research and community support is really essential to sustain that. Current trends and issues is a weird way to phrase it, but there's always something new coming out that we need to adapt to. AI is the big one right now that's affecting clinical research differently than it's affecting K-12 school libraries. But what it means for our work is something that we're all thinking about. Our patrons still have very diverse needs. We have very specific populations that we serve, but within those populations, we still need to be inclusive of different cultures and backgrounds and provide accessible resources and spaces, and even down to accommodating different learning styles. And our space, balancing print collections and the need for more study space, considering how to use the buildings and the resources that we have, as digital resources are kind of reducing the need for extensive shelving, exploring new layouts to support more of that collaborative space and study rooms and event areas and maker spaces while still preserving the space for traditional print materials and archives. And then this is the really fun stuff, is where it gets different, because it does feel like an entirely different world sometimes, even though we do have so much in common. It's really the context of how all of that is affected by the setting and the specialties and the subjects that we work with, down to how our calendars look. This is an absolutely real example of what my Wednesday schedule is. I'm not carefully scheduling my trauma for 7, and then I'm going to have an emergency as soon as that's done. Then we get an infectious disease and then have lunch. Those are all meetings that I have. That's my real Wednesday schedule. Only slightly edited. It's not hyperbolic at all, but we eat lunch during the infectious disease meeting, so that's not a separate agenda item. That's the only thing I changed, but what these words mean to us is very different in our context than it might be in other settings. And the calendar itself, just the year schedule, the flow of the calendar has less variation than it does in a lot of academic or school libraries. During the summer, we still absolutely have a full house of people studying for board exams after graduation, and they're doing their research, and then patient care never stops. And then we're busy getting ready for orientations that start July 1st. So we have, I know when the university is closed, I have no idea when spring break is or fall break is. There's just not as much of a difference as there would be in other settings. And then this is a very specific example, but words themselves mean different things to us. When other librarians are talking about their researchers or research, they tend to be using it as an umbrella term for anything from a kid working on a book report for school or somebody looking into their family's genealogy. For me, when I talk about a researcher, I'm talking about these guys. It's more like a patron category of, I work with groups of staff and trainees whose job is research. They're not students, they're not doctors, they're not nurses, they are researchers. And to them, when I'm talking to them or about them and use the word research, that is describing an original study. For me, it's usually human subjects, but occasionally it could be lab or genetic stuff or animal. It's just much narrower in our context. All that stuff that Tiffney mentioned is affected by the context of health sciences. Our space is going to have maybe some more gruesome artwork. I've got all my anatomy prints behind us, and our whiteboards always have some horrifying diagram drawn on them. We've got equipment varies quite a bit of what is in our spaces, not just what Tiffney has mentioned of the anatomical models and stuff. The library where I worked before Kornhauser was a osteopathic med school. So they had OMT tables so they could practice on each other doing that osteopathic manipulative medicine. And our program's going to be different, and the specifics of our instructions and resources are going to change with that context. Our special collections are extra special. We do have here at Kornhauser, we absolutely have an autopsy table in the basement. We are the proud owners of the second largest collection of antique bedpans in the world. And so we just have a ton of important historical medical documents and history to preserve, but also some interesting artifacts and ephemera that is in our collection that you might not think about being here otherwise. Reference and instruction had an asterisk on Tiffney's slide on purpose. It has the capacity to get real weird and different, and probably has the most variation within health sciences libraries of being different from everybody else and each other. We're still assisting people in finding information, doing their research, teaching, training on how to use resources, facilitating access. And to do that, a lot of us use a liaison model or an embedded model that aims to break down some of the traditional barriers of waiting for patrons to seek assistance at a reference desk. These librarians will proactively identify opportunities to provide information, support, and services. And there's a whole spectrum that can look like. There are absolutely hospital libraries that have a conventional service desk that you have to go to them to get any help. And on the very other extreme, there are programs that have librarians that go around to patient bedsides during rounds alongside the doctors and the nurses and the pharmacists. UK, Tiffney might have to help me, but I think I've got this right. UK is somewhere in the middle with more subject liaisons. They're kind of the recognized point persons for their departments or schools. Yes. They proactively maintain communications with those departments, but it is more of an academic capacity involvement with curriculum and training and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Cool. Here at Kornhauser, we're much farther on the extreme end. We will do everything except patient bedsides. We are fully integrated into our clinical teams. We actively participate in rounds and patient management conferences and research meetings, discussions that are related to patient care. None of these models are wrong. Nowhere on this little spectrum is a problem. It's just a matter of matching up the needs of the populations that we're working with what we have the capacity to provide for them. So how do we get to do what we do varies quite a bit. Tiffney, do you want to tell us how you got where you are? You said you would.
Sure. I always make the joke that I kind of found libraries by accident. I didn't mean to set out to become a librarian. I actually did undergraduate in communications with a minor in marketing from the University of Louisville. And I started, as I found out many people do, I started in work study as a work study student in the health sciences library, which was great. Helped me get through college, and I know it was preparing me for just serving in other capacities. So I started from work study, and then I went to part-time, and then I actually worked in the medical library, the Roundtree Medical Library, for a time. I assisted the main librarian there, doing article retrieval and interlibrary loan and some orientation. And then I moved into a full-time position in public access services. So that's why that group of people have a close space to my heart, because a lot of times there's a lot of interaction there that happens with the patrons, keeping the library going. Those are the ones who are there to open up and close the library. So in public access services, I worked within a library loan. I worked with overdue. I worked as an overdue clerk. I don't even know if they have those anymore, but I worked as an overdue clerk. And then from there, actually decided in 2015 to go back and get my master's after much bargaining from some of my older mentors in the library who were faculty members. They pleaded with me to go back to school. And I did, and just not knowing where it would lead, but joined the program here at UK. Did that for 2 years, 2015 and 2017. And then, just as they said, when I graduated from school, which I went to school to be a clinical librarian, I did the clinical track for health librarianship in this program. And when I finished school, I did intern while I was in school, and I did some clinical work. I was embedded. I worked with the pediatrics department. I attended grand rounds and clinical meetings, and our at that time the clinical librarian program was kind of just getting started at U of L, so we were few in numbers, but we were trying to add to that. But somewhere around the time of me completing graduate school and that internship, we had someone retire in our library, and they were the head of collection development. And literally, my director said, "You like spreadsheets, don't you? Would you like to do collection development?" I knew nothing about budgeting, budget forecasting, licensing, none of that. But thankfully, um, the person who was there before me, she spent a lot of time training me before she left, and kind of helped me prepare the way to take over for her. And I did collection development for, I would say, I think about 7 years before leaving U of L. And at the time, I also did marketing. So some of the things I did just in undergrad helped play a role later. So I was the head of marketing for the library while I was there. Did collection development. I had some background training in emergency response services for libraries. Did that with NNLM, and that allowed me to be like the head of the emergency response team for the library. So just a lot of things, allowing myself to kind of be teachable and to learn and to grow in my field, allowed me to kind of apply things in other areas. I really like social media, so it kind of worked out for me doing marketing and working with Facebook and all of that. And then I would say, I guess the last of those 7 years, the last 4, I think, of those, Jess and I spent being associate directors, and her leading in clinical services. I'm not trying to tell her story, but her leading in clinical services, and then me leading in collection development. And then there was an opportunity to move into a director position here at UK, and I'm really thankful I took it, although I, never saw myself being a library director. But that just goes to show you just never know where the path will lead, and you just have to, continue to try to grow in the field, always be teachable, advance yourself as best you can, open yourself up to other opportunities. You just never know where we'll go to. So now, as the director, I have the opportunity to lead 14 very wonderful faculty and staff folks in the MCL. And I will say I'm, 6 or so months in, and I really still love my job. So that's my very wayward career path into librarianship.
Mine's a little more direct. I did know at least that I wanted to be a librarian. So I knew coming out of undergrad, my undergrad is in English. I knew that I didn't want to get stuck in that kind of, you need a good experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience paradox loop. So instead of going straight into grad school, I was looking for any job in any library that I could get with just a bachelor's, and plan to do my master's later on. Also, having money to do that helps. So I was getting me a job first. And the job that I found was an acquisitions tech position in the medical library at the Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I guess it's obvious looking back, but it hadn't really occurred to me that medical libraries were a thing. And then did grad school online at UK, only went to campus for graduation, and graduated in December of 2014. And then was just very casually on the grad school listservs of job opportunities when the clinical librarian position opened here at Kornhauser. And even more than not knowing that medical libraries existed, even once I did, the idea that there was such a thing as a clinical librarian that kind of chases the doctors around the hospital, try to make sure they know what they're doing. I didn't realize that was an option, and that was really cool. So I applied for that and came to Kornhauser. And then, as same as Tiffney, in January of 2020, our previous director had retired. So the person that was in charge of clinical services moved up to full director, and then split. Instead of having an assistant director, had two associate directors, and that's us. So that's how I got to where I am. I've been here in this associate director position since January of 2020. And I supervise 8-ish positions. One of them's kind of shared with public services, and one of them's vacant. It's weird. But I have a great team, and I think our library as a whole is pretty collaborative, so it's hard to kind of count who works on which team sometimes. But as far as the org chart is concerned, other paths that we know of, that director that Tiffney and I both mentioned, who was hospital librarian with Tiffney at one point, had been in public libraries for years. She changed careers very late, then started over as hospital librarian, and then moved up from there to be the director of our library at this point. I've known retired nurses who went back to school to be librarians when they were tired of clinical work, but still wanted to have some kind of foothold there. Some people come straight from grad school. We have somebody who was doing clinical research, like was a medical writer before they came over. So there's a lot of different ways to get here. And I've only known a few of those who actually did have any kind of formal scientific health background or education. We have a lot of English communications, humanities degrees running around here. And that is not at all prohibitive of a clinical medical health sciences path. Some programs do offer hospital or health sciences specialization, and it's great to take advantage of those. Or they might just offer health sciences courses to get some of those going on. Having some health background could help. And other things like statistics or bioinformatics, data science stuff that's more adjacent. There are positions that would benefit from that supplemental degree or additional advanced degrees, and some positions that might even accept it in place of an MLS or require both. Some of the really intense subject liaisons want you to have some kind of nursing degree and an MLS. And then as the resources and technology and the nature of what we do is always changing, this path does, as Tiffney mentioned, keep going. So professional development, attending conferences, webinars, staying up to date on trends and best practices is important at any stage. So we talked a lot about what we don't need to have, but what we really do, there are some core characteristics that will be important to long-term success in this kind of a role, or the things that might give you a sense of what you are well suited for. Experience, background isn't at all required, but a genuine interest is. The human body is just a menagerie of horrors, and finding interest and curiosity in that rather than repulsion is incredibly helpful for some of our roles that have a more direct connection to the gruesome topics or imagery. Tiffney did, I think, was relieved to move away from her clinical position and not have to look
Very.
at all the gross stuff as much.
Very.
Whereas it's my favorite. I love my gross stuff.
You know, we actually had a meeting today with a vendor, and they were showing some things in Visual DX. And
Oh,
I was like,
no.
I miss not having to look at this anymore.
So we also have, it's in general, it's hard work, and sometimes it's really hard. So even having that genuine interest and passion is what makes it sustainable by finding that fulfillment in it. And we do, as you may have noticed, we do have a lot of fun and levity. But we also do need to be able to navigate discussions around really hard topic. We talk about death or surgical complications or informed consent or patient circumstances, and be able to have those conversations with composure and respect and professionalism that's really informed by a commitment to privacy and security and research integrity and other ethical issues really facilitate that for us. We need not to downplay the importance of other library types even a little bit, and I don't want to sound self-aggrandizing, but one of the things that we have to really keep in our brain, we need to recognize and occasionally remind ourselves of the gravity of our work. Not that others, information services or health, other libraries aren't doing important work. It's just that the stakes are very different if we are to get careless with our work. If we're not sufficiently thorough and providing super accurate information when it's needed, and sometimes that is very, very urgently, there's a very real potential for much more tangible harm than there is in a lot of other contexts. Everybody needs good communication skills. For us, that takes the specific flavor of needing to be able to kind of cut through all the medical terminology and the acronyms and the slang and help our users kind of refine a meaningful research question, getting to know them and having a discernment of what they say they need and what they actually mean they need. That's something that comes with time and experience. Along those lines of willingness to learn, I was mostly thinking of like professional development and a growth mindset when I added that point, but also the willingness to admit what you don't know, being willing to ask clarifying questions and make sure you understand rather than working off assumptions is really important. And on the other hand, confidence in what you do know is just as important as being aware of what you don't. Sometimes you have to explain to a very important person why you cut a $6,000 journal that only they use, or have to tell somebody with a whole lot of letters after their name that they cannot possibly conduct a full systematic review with a meta-analysis on their own in a single weekend. And you need to know what you're talking about and convey that kind of authority and competence in your own work. I won't deny that it can be intimidating to go into a room full of world-renowned experts in their specialty who've revolutionized their field and feel like you belong at that table and you have anything to contribute. But they do need us too. And you find them one piece of information, or you help them with a citation manager, or you show them how to work Microsoft Teams, and they think we are the genius wizards and they're just baffled at what we can do. So keep that in mind. Imposter syndrome is inefficient. You need to really have a solid grasp of knowing that you know what you're talking about, so others will buy into that and believe you and trust you on it. As these aren't really in a meaningful order, but last, it's not really a field that lends itself to taking a 6-month sabbatical to come back and having written a book. It's pretty rare for us to be single authors on a paper or a poster. We tend to be on really massive projects that have whole lists of collaborating authors on reviews or guideline projects, or even our original like in library research projects tend to have at least 1 or 2 collaborators on there. So most of our scholarship is collaborative in some way, whether that's different people in our library or multidisciplinary projects with other disciplines or departments. And that's one of my favorite things of all the aspects of working in a health sciences library that individuals may find appealing. That collaboration is near the top for me, and getting to be engaged and involved, going beyond answering questions or retrieving items to really contribute to patient care decision-making and research, and having an active participation on those projects as part of the team is one of my favorite parts. These pictures down here, these gross ones of me swabbing my nose, are from very early March of 2020, the first week of March in 2020, when we were ramping up capacity for PCRs for COVID. And I got to be right there with the rest of the infectious disease team doing oropharyngeal swabs on ourselves to have enough testing and samples to ramp up capacity and get ready for that. And that's one of my favorite parts, is being that level of integrated into healthcare. There is a little bit limited public interaction, truly public, but we still have really diverse patron population types, and we tend to get pretty attached to them. We have somebody that works with chaplaincy really closely. Some people get really bonded with their nurses. For me, it's my fellows. These are people who have graduated med school and finished a residency. So they are doctors, fully doctors. They're just getting a higher level of postgraduate training in a specialty. And they tend to be really passionate and interested in their specialty and about kind of helping earlier residents and interns and some students too. So they're fun for me to work with. The content area itself, some of us just like weird medical stuff. And so the intellectual side of that can be really fulfilling. It is dynamic with constant advancements, and everything's changing all the time, and being involved with that is cool. But in a very practical way, there's a balance of variety and consistency. Of day to day, I never really know what new questions or projects might be coming. And I work with different departments on Thursday than I do on Wednesday. But there's a rhythm that you get into of week to week, that Thursdays and Wednesdays look different, but my Wednesdays look pretty similar to each other. So that kind of helps keep it stable with that variety mixed in. But the biggest and probably most universal that health sciences librarians or staff, a lot of our staff share this sentiment of really being fulfilled by having some kind of an impact on health outcomes, whether that's getting to assist training or active clinical work of our healthcare professionals with evidence-based practice and helping make sure they have the resources they need or the skills they need to find and access and appraise literature and make decisions that are based on the best available evidence. Some of us really like being able to contribute at a more local level to the health of our communities through direct outreach and engagement with promotion at health fairs or community events. We do the farmers market. That's pretty fun. Offering health literacy trainings to different groups and just providing free information and resources through outreach initiatives. So direct or indirectly helping improve people's health is a rewarding thing that we do. Tiffany, do you have anything to add before I get to our exciting slide?
No, I think you hit them. I will say maybe just knowing that what we do is helping to train future healthcare professionals. I've been in health science librarianship for 20 years now. Doesn't feel like that. But I always love when I interact in the community with physicians and, they ask what you do. And I say, oh, I worked at the library, I worked at the medical library. And they're just like, their face lights up. Like, I studied at the library. I was there. The library is so helpful to me. So knowing that all that we do is not in vain, what we're doing to provide space for them, what we're doing to keep the building open extra hours, that there are people out there who really, truly appreciate it. And that those people are becoming the future healthcare professionals.
So to that end,
Yes.
both of us have open positions right now.
Yes.
They are both full-time positions. I think they're both tenure track. Kornhauser, and there are full details and application portals and all of that at these QR code links. We at Kornhauser have an opening for a clinical librarian position that's mostly supporting public health and animal research. So if all of that other stuff about supporting healthcare, education, and research at point of need sounds good, and you have like a December graduation date, feel free to apply. We are accepting applications until it's filled, but the review has already started. So the sooner the better for submitting materials for that one.
And ours is a health science librarian. They're not very different. One is extremely embedded, and the other is maybe more so working with the academic side of things. But they report to our associate director of outreach and engagement for the health sciences. That position, we are also currently accepting applications. If you are graduating in May, you can feel free to apply for that as well. For more information, you can feel free to just scan that QR code. And I can honestly tell you that working at both institutions, they're both great places to work, and will provide you with just, a great sense of exposure and opportunity to learn and grow in your field.
And now we're ready for questions.
I did not see any in the chat, but I did see, wait, I think we have one. Okay, I have a background working as a state registered nurse's aide. Would it be beneficial to keep this credential or any healthcare credential if I pursue health sciences librarianship?
So, in terms of like keeping it updated, like paying to recertify and get your test every year, it's probably fine to let that lapse, but make sure that you mention it in cover letters, especially of how that experience would translate to any positions that you're applying to, and including it on your CV and resume. A lot of resume advice tends to focus on refining it down to just what is the most relevant to this position. And so it's something that you might be tempted to leave out because it's not library experience, but absolutely keep that on any application materials. And it would absolutely, at least for us, kind of give somebody an edge everything else considered. It's always in our desirable qualifications list of things that would be nice to have.
Yeah.
It's additional certifications or credentials. They just don't have to be so accurate, so current that you can treat patients with them.
And also feel like it can't hurt to have that little extra knowledge and information in your back pocket. I mean, as we said, the pathway to health science librarianship is often odd and strange, but having that nursing experience in your background, it doesn't hurt to have that with you, especially if you're in clinical settings.
Okay, we have another. What are your tips for those just starting out in this field? Do you recommend taking courses in public health, statistics, etc.?
Statistics might help. More and more data is data management kind of stuff is more and more universal. It used to be something that was sufficient to have like one of us that was kind of an expert and the rest of us could kind of muddle through. But it's getting more and more essential to everybody's roles, especially with NIH mandates of open data or open access mandates. That kind of thing is really good to have a background in already. A course that I would recommend that I took that was totally free. I did a Coursera course in, and this is weird, but bear with me, clinical terminology for English as a second language. English is not a second language to me, but it was really thorough in explaining all the little acronyms and abbreviations and all of that in a way that is possible to absorb without having the foundational knowledge of what all that stuff means. Like, I don't need to know how to do an appendectomy to put the pieces of the word together. And it was a lot of that kind of knowledge that I did through Coursera. And you can pay $40 and get a certificate, but I did that for free and didn't get the certificate, but it has been really helpful.
Yeah. I'd say also any professional development opportunities that you can be involved in, courses about maybe supervision or having different conversations. Those are also be helpful things to put in your back pocket. Again, never knowing which way you might go in the field. It's always helpful. So I would say anytime there's anything offered, if you have the opportunity to attend conferences, participate in workshops. I know there's a lot of information about AI right now, especially how that plays out in healthcare. So if you have those opportunities to attend any of those things, I would say spend the time and attend those workshops and conferences.
One more. Do you know any good websites that focus on job listings for medical library jobs? I know of MLA's job list, but I'm curious to look around and see what institutions are looking for.
I would say the NNLM's regions are probably more helpful than MLA's job list is going to be the overall nationwide everything.
Yeah.
It is a paid service, so they charge a whole lot of money to put those ads up there. And if budgets are tight, there may be smaller libraries who are just for free sending their ads to all the regional listservs and newsletters and blogs instead of paying, I don't know, $700 a month to have their posting up on MLA. And we will send our job ads out to all of the regions, not just the one we're in. So I would subscribe to one of those regional listservs or newsletters. Some of them do listservs, some of them have blogs, some of them have newsletters, and I can't remember which one's which. We can get a link. And then the other thing is that if the academic side of things It's interesting, like Tiffany and I are both at academic institutions that happen to have health sciences libraries. So our jobs will also be posted through higher ed jobs. We've got, I think it automatically feeds to Indeed and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, I
second.
would look at the regional listservs or the kind of subject or special interest groups kind of stuff. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren.
She's got the Southern chapter of MLA. Kentucky is the weirdest place for the NNLM. We're in Region 1 now, which is totally not the South. We used to be part of the Midwest, so at least it's a little closer, but we are in Region 1 of the NNLM, if that's
helpful to anybody.
Listserv that anybody's interested in.
Okay, we have two more. The first one is for current students, our program offers a set of health librarianship courses. This is at UK. Besides that, do you have any suggestions for current students to take to gain background skills for health librarianship? And what about data science or data visualization courses?
All of the above. So any extras are extras. Not having a data science background isn't going to be prohibitive of somebody coming to work with us, but it's absolutely always going to appear on our desirable qualifications when we're hiring. And having that formalized in some way will be helpful on their resumes. A lot of people are, especially when it comes to data visualization, can be kind of self-taught and they're really good at it. And they know all kinds of coding magic that I don't understand to do this really impressive statistical analysis or visualizations. But conveying that on a resume is a whole lot easier if you can put like a certificate or coursework that you've done to demonstrate that.
We have one more. I have a professional certificate in medical writing and editing. Is this something that would help me get a leg up when applying for jobs in health sciences libraries?
Oh yeah.
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we do get a lot of questions are not necessarily always about if we can use RT-PCRs to diagnose monkeypox. They want to know the reviewer has given us these comments on our paper, and I don't know what they mean by this or how to meet this. So a lot of our consultations are more focused on the writing side of things or the publication process or just the entire research from idea to publication and comprehension and analysis or assessment of publications is really important too. So that would absolutely help, I would think.
Tiffany and Jess, I know that we are quickly approaching our time to leave, but I wanted to check, what is the best way if anyone on this call wants to get in touch with y'all? How would y'all prefer they reach out?
So you can catch me on email. It's just my name, Tiffney.Gipson-Goodwin at uky.edu.
And same for me, just not Tiffany's email. Mine is jessica.petrey@louisville.edu. But also we do talk to each other. If you end up emailing one of us and you mean to email the other, we can get you put back together, or we might both answer it anyway, that kind of thing.
This is fantastic. I would highly encourage y'all to reach out after the webinar to thank them for being fantastic. And I'm sure there's probably more questions that we did not have time for. I just want to thank our presenters, Tiffany and Jess, one more time. And I hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.